G'day everyone, I'm going to be talking about what factors to look at when choosing when to go fishing. Time of day, moon phase, tides, current and weather. I look at all of those things, especially when going on a trip. If you're spending thousands of dollars going overseas fishing, you want to make sure you're not going at a crappy moon phase. Also in your home zone, if you only have limited amount of time, you want to make sure you're getting the best possible chance at hooking a certain species of fish. You want to look at these factors when choosing which days to go. Let's get straight into it. We'll start with time of day. There are three main times of day that I look at when fishing. That is sunrise, middle of the day, and sunset. If I had to rank them, the morning slightly has the edge in general for action. Fish just seem super fired up in the morning. The next prime time is sunset. Also a very good time. Fish are going crazy then, trying to get a last meal in before dark. Then we have middle of the day, which is usually pretty dead time. Fish, depending on the species, hit a lot less in the middle of the day. They might still be there, but they're not as fired up. It's species specific though. If you are targeting mulloway, go sunset through dusk into night. If I was going for tuna in the middle of the day, I can see everything really well, and tuna are so black on top, you can see these black torpedoes flying through the water. Cast in front of them, big hooker. Middle of the day for tuna is my prime time to go for tuna. I'm talking to you like you're just learning fishing, and in that case, time of day, sunrise, then sunset, and then middle of the day. That's my order of what's best. Moving on to moon phase. The moon affects the tides, and the tides affect the current. Everything here is connected now. We'll talk about the moon first. The reason you get big tides on full moon and new moon is because you have the sun, you have the earth, and you have the moon all lined up together. The sun's gravitational pull on the earth's water and the moon's gravitational pull on the earth's water combine to make super big bulge, and you get way larger tides than when the moon's in some different orientation to the sun and they're both competing for that tide. The sun has about 1/3 of the gravitational pull on the earth's tides, and the moon has about 2/3 gravitational pull. Just like the time of day, I see the moon phase in three different segments. I see it in new moon, I see it in full moon, and I see it in whatever else is in between. In my experience, the absolute best time to go fishing is new moon. 3 days leading up to the new moon, on the new moon, and 2 days after, I've noticed massive increase in fish activity to the point where I book all my trips based off of that. 3 days before, day of the new, 2 days after. That is my key fishing window. I'll put travel on either side of those dates, and that is when I'm going to go fishing. It honestly can be the difference between going and catching nothing and going and catching tons and tons of fish. I have had really good fish on the full moon. Some fishermen swear by it and say they like it better than the new moon. Personally, I prefer the new moon, but both are very good. There's a bit of a difference though. You want to spin 4 days leading up to the full moon, on the full moon, and then after that completely forget about it. The reason I don't think the full is as good is I think fish feed at night time. You're getting half-fed fish that are already feeling pretty full by morning, and they're not super frothing on hitting your lures. Not the same level as a new moon where it's black at night and it feels like they're less likely to find bait schools at night time. So yeah, I tilt towards the new moon for sure over the full moon, but both have the big tides, and for a lot of fish species, big tides, big current means big activity, big action, big attack your lure. The times in between, when the moon is at a different orientation, maybe 90 degrees or anywhere in between there, you get the small tides. The fish definitely don't seem to have the same level of excitement. You'll get like these weird little hits on your lures where they kind of come up and like swipe at it or do a tentative little attack. Whereas new moon, full moon, you might have that same fish coming up and just absolutely destroying your lure full speed. It's just a more chill time for them. Fish has got to eat though. You still should be able to hook up. It might require more skill from the fishermen to hook fish when it's not the crazy new moon, full moon feeding times. I'd say that the new and the full in general are definitely the best times to go, but there are certain moon phases that are necessary to fish certain areas. The next point is tides. I reckon it depends where you're fishing and what you're fishing for. Personally, I like low tide beach gutters. I like to spin on low tide, and then as the tide's starting to creep in, water starts rushing into those gutters, and predatory little fishies are going to be hanging and patrolling those gutter edges looking for little bait that flick into the gutter. There is exceptions to that where maybe there's an amazing high tide gutter that is just pretty much a little puddle on low, and you want to wait for the high tide to come in to fish that zone. It depends on your beach setup basically, but in general for me, I like low tide beach gutters. Off the rocks, I've noticed a dramatic increase in pelagic activity in close to the rocks on high tides. Off the rocks, personally, it's high tide. Off the beach, personally, it's low tide. Islands, I actually like the mid tides. On the high and the low, there's no movement in the water, there's no current. As it starts dropping or as it starts coming in, you have current start rushing past that island. We talked about this a little bit on the location video. High and low tide for islands are slack tide, there's nothing going on. You pretty much walk around and pepper little coral trout zones because there's no movement to the water. There's no fish highway coming past your island. So for me, out on the islands, it's actually mid tide is going to be best. You still can fish on the high and the low, and you still hook pelagics, they might cruise by your ledge, but it's definitely not that crazy highway with standing waves where there's fish just shooting by, and predatory fish like GT who hang in the current behind bommies and stuff like that, waiting to see a little bait fish come or your lure come. Boom! Those fish seem to really, really love current. Some of the places I've fished over the years have had bigger than 5 meter tides. If it's got 2 meters of water on it at low, it's got 7 meters of water on it at high. It's a massive contrast, a massive change. You have fish moving into that new bit of water on high where they wouldn't have got to before. And then vice versa, you have those same fish retreating back to a different area on low. It's just about contrast, really. If you have a small moon phase, there's only like a 1 meter, 2 meter difference in the tide. That's not very much. But if you have a big moon phase and you have a 5 meter change in the tide, it's a huge amount of contrast and there's just more activity. So tide wise, that's my pick. Low tide off the beach gutters in general, high tide off the rocks in general, around the mid tide in general off islands because you have the most current, and estuaries, I honestly don't have a clue what is best. I have fished low tide at the estuary mouth because all the fish tend to come out to the mouth at low, and then high tide up further in the upper reaches of the estuary. But then you also have the opposite true, where at low tide up in the estuary there is a smaller body of water and the fish are concentrated down into a smaller area, so there's more chance of them seeing your lure. Estuaries are a bit of a mystery to me. I won't try and pretend that I know anything about them, but beach, rocks and islands I know a bit about. Low tide beach, high tide rocks, mid tide islands is my pick. That brings us on to the next point, which is currents. If you see some current, definitely cast into the current. Even on a beach gutter that's feeding out into the ocean and you have a ripping current going out there, there's going to be fish sitting there because it's like a highway for little bait fish to come by and get smashed by the predatory fish. It's like a concentration point basically. So if you can find current in general, wherever you are, mainland, island, whatever it is, you're usually going to find fish. Think about Nemo with the turtles, how they ride in the East Australian current. They're all like cruising in that thing and it's like super chilled for them. There's just a concentration of turtles and fish and other things in that current. That's actually fully true. Like pelagics cruise current. They also go the opposite way against current looking for bait. You have other fish like GT that sit low down behind a rock and wait for those bait fish to get pushed past in the current, in the concentration point. You have island here and you have a massive amount of water rushing towards that island. When it hits, all that water gets funneled along the island. You're going to have a concentration of bait getting blasted past and you have big predatory fish waiting to smash it. So current, if you can find it, very good. If I see current, I'll go and cast at it. The leading edge is the best, but the back eddy, Dennis Verrett will tell you that the back eddy is the best zone. He's hooked some big fish in the back eddies. Current, it's an amazing thing. It's a fish concentration gathering highway that you should definitely look for. Look for current, fish the current, catch the fish. The next thing I'm going to talk about is weather. I like zero swell for the beach. It's just amazing fun to spin with no swell. There'll be lots more fish coming right in close and you just have a much nicer time there. For the rocks, I don't want zero swell. I want a little bit of swell because I need some kind of disturbance and activity in the water, some excitement to the water to get bait fish and smaller fish out of their crevices, out into like a little wash zone where the big fish will come and try and smash them. I find that a bit of wash on the rocks is much better fishing than zero wash on the rocks. Islands, I like zero swell. It's just so nice to spin, and you have the currents, which is a whole different beast than the mainland. The currents are where the fish are on the islands. Bright sunny versus cloudy. If I'm going for mackerel, I love a bit of cloud. If I'm going for tuna, I want zero cloud. I want the bright sun right up behind my head so I can see through the water and see those torpedoes coming by. It all depends on the fish. In general, I like a bit of cloud cover where it's changing, going in and out of the clouds, but this is not really something you can control. The weather is so random bottom. I went down fishing just a couple days ago. It said 1.2 meters on the chart. That was nearly double overhead waves. So I don't know how they got it that wrong, but they get it that wrong all the time. You pretty much just got to go with the flow in terms of that. Obviously, if there's a cyclone predicted or something, you're not going to go fishing. So the weather is the thing that we can't control. We can choose when we go fishing with those other things, but you can't choose if it's going to be howling wind or massive swell. That's just the weather. And the weather must have screwed up tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands or millions of fishing trips over the years. Can't control the weather. I like it partly cloudy, partly sunny, in and out sun. I like a little bit of swell on the rocks so that there's some action, some activity, some wash. I like no swell on the beach, and I like no swell on the islands. So now that I've given you what time of day I like, what moon phase I like, what tides I like, and what currents I like, the secret to all of this is trying to combine multiple factors. So if you're going to go fishing off the rocks on the mainland, not on an island, and you can go at sunrise, you can go on a new moon, and you can go on a high tide, 2 hours before, 2 hours after high, that 4-hour window, really nice. Current not so important here because you're on mainland. If you can combine those three factors, weather, big swell, big wind being the random attribute that floats on top of all of this, aside, you are putting yourself into a very good position to hook a fish. Combining those triggers, those factors that cause fish to flare up and want to eat and want to hit your lure, is the key to picking when to go. If you don't have kids, you don't have a job, you don't have whatever responsibilities a lot of us do have, if you can go whenever you want and you wanted to go beach fishing in a gutter, you might go late afternoon sunset, new moon, low tide, when the tide just starts pushing in and you're starting to get some current rushing through your gutter and out the mouth of your gutter on a small swell day, that weather factor hovering on top of it all. You're combining 5 factors there. There's a very, very large chance you're going to hook something. Targeting tuna off an island, I want middle of the day so I can sight cast. I want new moon. I want the tide to be about 1 to 2 hours after high or after low, starting to run really strong because I want the current to be howling. Weather, I would like it to be bright sunny, not a cloud in sight, so I can spot those tuna. That's 5 factors combined into a very, very likely chance that you're going to have tuna flying past there and you're going to be able to spot those big, beautiful torpedoes, cast about 10 meters in front of them, tweaky tweak, boom. So the magic in all of this happens with combining these factors. It's unlikely that you're ever going to get all 5 factors to align. On days that they do, it's usually magic and you get tons and tons and tons and tons of fish action. With your responsibilities, you maybe can only combine a couple of factors. Maybe you could go for an early fish in the morning at the good tide and there was a bit of current running, but you missed out on the moon phase. It was a crappy moon phase and it's a bit rainy. So there's a couple factors missing, but you got 3 of the factors. You're still in with a good shot. You can have all of these factors absent. You could be spinning at the absolute worst time, worst moon phase, worst tide, worst currents, worst kind of weather. You can have all of those things missing, cast out, you could hook a marlin. These are not set in stone. They definitely help. They can have a dramatic effect on fish activity. Anytime that I have a long period off where I can go fishing a lot, I am looking at these things and I'm trying to line them all up and I'm trying to get as many factors combined so that I have as much action as possible down the rocks because it's fun. You want the fishing to be good every time you go fishing. So look at these factors if you're trying to choose when to go fishing and when will be a good time. They have definitely helped me over the years. But remember, the best time to go fishing is when your responsibilities allow you to go fishing. Thanks heaps for all the support on the Briggsy channel. We hit 200,000 subscribers. That is mental. Thank you so much. All I do is go fishing with a GoPro on my head and some reason people like to watch it. I'm extremely bloody grateful. More films coming very soon.